Am I the jerk for ignoring a friend after they gave me $100? I am a 29-year-old female who lent my friend and her boyfriend outfits to wear to an Indian wedding. I am white, my husband is Indian, and we had outfits from a previous Indian wedding that probably cost around $200 per outfit. I had no problem letting her borrow them for the event. About 4 months later, I had not really seen or heard from this friend. To be honest, I did not think twice about her having the clothes since we live in the United States and do not wear Indian formal wear frequently. At this point, my husband and I were actually going to India for a few weeks, and we had a formal event where we would have loved to wear the outfits. We were packing for our trip but could not find them, and then realized that my friend had them and never reached out to return them. I contacted my friend and she responded frantically, saying she felt bad but would not have time to meet up prior to our trip. Oh well, my husband and I used it as an excuse to buy new clothes while we were there. When we came back home, a few months passed, and we made some attempts to meet up with my friend, both in group and one-on-one settings. Each time she did not come. Finally, I explicitly asked when she would return the outfits. She said she was happy to just ship them to me. At this point, I was annoyed that she could not sacrifice a few hours of her day to meet up and spend time together. I responded that if that was easiest for her, then sure. Weeks went by, I had not heard from her and had not received anything. I decided that I should not be the one who had to pester her to return clothes that I lent her. I would rather just be done with it and accept that I was not going to get the clothes back, and the friendship seemed as good as done. A few weeks later, I invited a group over, and she was in that group chat. It was a perfect opportunity for her to hang out and return the clothes. Everyone else in the chat responded that they were coming, but she was radio silent. Finally, on the day of the event, my husband explicitly texted her on the side asking if she would be coming and reminded her that she still had our clothes. She responded 1 hour before the event that she would be there. I was actually more annoyed at this point that she decided to come only when she was explicitly reminded that she still needed to return the clothes. I reached out to her and told her I was quite frankly annoyed that she decided to come so last minute, and it seemed like she was only doing so because she was called out. She was shocked at my response, and when she finally came over, she returned my clothes and gave me a $100 gift card with a thank you note. This final act upset me the most because it felt like hush money in a weird way, as if giving me money would absolve her from all blame in how she handled this situation. All in all, I might be the one at fault for being petty, waiting for her to reach out and return my own clothes, and then getting annoyed when she gave me money to make amends. What do you think, Reddit? Am I the one at fault? It's strange she would hold on to the clothes for so long just to return them in good condition with a $100 gift card. It doesn't take weeks or months to return something. To me, it reads as if she knows she messed up and was trying to make it right. People like this always seem to have the audacity though. Am I the jerk for not siding with my brother's abusive behavior towards my parents? Hi all, I am a 24-year-old female, and my brother is a 22-year-old male. My brother has a history of screaming and getting physical whenever he gets mad. He has been arrested before for domestic violence when he was a teenager. He was almost arrested for a physical fight with our dad, but because he was a minor, they took my dad away instead. He once grabbed my mom and was yelling in her face, and I truly believe that if it wasn't for my aunt who got in between them, he would have laid a hand on her. He and my dad got into an argument when my dad asked him if he had been in my room, because he knew I wasn't home and found it odd that my door was open and the fan was on. My brother ignored him, so my dad asked again, and that's when my brother grabbed him and started physically attacking him to the point where my dad was on the floor with my brother on top, with his hands around his neck, repeating, "Say you're sorry, say you're sorry, say you're sorry." That same day, I got home from a trip to the aquarium. The rest of my family was also there, making some food. They were all unaware of what happened except for my parents and me. He's always an introvert when it comes to family, so it wasn't odd to them when he didn't come out of his room to eat with the rest of us. Later on, he came out when everyone left and asked me about something he left in my room. I said it was upstairs, but I couldn't look at him, especially after finding out about him trying to choke our dad. He proceeded to text me, saying that if I wasn't on his side, then he'd cut me off. He eventually did. The next day, my mom threw some holy water in his room, our belief being that it would get rid of any bad energy in there. He had a Ring camera in there and saw what happened, so his next step was to yell at her and start throwing his trash outside of his room. My mom wanted to go into his room to tell him not to do that, but I stopped her because I thought he'd hurt her. I said, "No mom, don't go in there, he's acting crazy." He then said, "Oh, you're on their side now. You're on my list then, watch yourself." I proceeded to yell back that I didn't care. I've tried to spin it around in my head a million times, questioning whether I was wrong for not siding with him, but the only one getting loud or physical was him. My parents aren't perfect, but they've done their best. They are paying for his college out of pocket just like they did for me. They put him through private schools. They supported everything he has done. That's still not enough for him. He's told my mother to her face that she's dumb and that not going to college was such a stupid thing to do, even though he knows very well that wasn't an option for her. He's told us before that he's better than everybody and that no one is right except him. I know I haven't been the best sister either, but I refuse to enable his behavior. Am I the asshole? You are not to blame. Your brother's violent behavior is absolutely unacceptable and needs to be addressed immediately. The kind of physical violence and anger he's displaying is not normal, and it seems your parents have been enabling this for far too long. He needs serious mental help and possibly anger management classes, even if it means involving the police. No one should ever tolerate being the target of violence, and it's crucial to stop enabling his behavior before it gets worse. Am I the jerk for standing my ground and not letting my suite mate take my dorm room? For context, our college randomly assigns suites and rooms to students that apply for dorming. It is not chosen by the students, only the buildings and who they wish to room with. I, a 19-year-old male, am moving to college in the fall. I am in the process of getting to know my suite mates and roommates since I chose to do random assignment. Because I had applied late to college and everyone had already chosen roommates, I had to go with the first bed open. After I had been assigned a room, my actual roommate added me and we began talking. However, he soon blocked me and I could no longer contact him. A week after this happened, my suite mates got in contact with me. They added me and we talked. They then asked me if I happened to know my roommate since he was the only one they had not talked with yet. I said yes, but after we talked a bit, he blocked me. We then all assumed that he would no longer be dorming with us, hence the need to block me on Instagram. After much discussion, that was the best answer we could come up with as to why he did so. I thought that was the end of that discussion, but it seems I was wrong. One of my suite mates, let's name him Phineas, later suggested that we should vote on who got the room. I was confused and asked him why, since I got the room fair and square by it being assigned to me. He said that he was not aware that the rooms were assigned, and that even if they were, we should vote on who gets it anyway since he wanted it. I told him no for a second time and wanted to be over with it. He then told me that he had a girlfriend and that I could understand, right? No, I get that she is going to visit every now and then and that it would be nice to have some privacy, especially if they were going to do intimate things, but I already told him that I wanted the room since it was assigned to me, and that if he wanted a single, he should have booked a single. He keeps pushing the matter, but I shut him down every time. I told him that if he continues to talk about it, I would go to the resident assistant and get in contact with the school about the whole situation and how Phineas wanted to violate explicit rules and guidelines of living in the dorms. For more context, our college does not allow the opposite sex to enter the bedrooms of the student and may only stay in the common area with the suite door open to the hallway. This was a strict rule that even adheres to parents and family. The guy called me inconsiderate and said that I do not even need it since I am single and would never understand it. My other suite mate, whom I will name Ferb for the memes, thinks we should see who needs the room more and give it to them. I think that it rightfully belongs to me since I was assigned the room in bed, and that if I got so lucky that I did not have a roommate anymore, then that was my luck and not theirs. Am I the asshole? You did nothing to deserve criticism. The room was assigned by the college, and switching without involving your RA or the housing department could cause all sorts of logistical issues. If your suite wants a room with privacy, he better have something to trade for it. I want isn't a valid reason. Get the dorm hall director to shut it down on your behalf. Am I the jerk for yelling at my child for their liking of a video game character? I, 42-year-old female, have a 13-year-old son who has become obsessed with the character Kokichi Oma from a video game series he enjoys. This started at least a year ago when I bought him the game for the SES4. He began acquiring merchandise of this character, such as pins, stickers, and t-shirts. He talks about the character non-stop, often providing detailed analysis. If anyone comments on it, he continues his tangent even more. My husband and I have found it incredibly annoying, but we've stayed silent because we don't want to shut him down or hurt his feelings. He got a costume of the character and has worn it in public, despite my objections to him wearing it on casual occasions that aren't like Halloween or parties. He even started mimicking some of the character's personality traits. I didn't mind as much when it was small things like this, but as time goes by, his behavior has become more extreme. He constantly copies Kokichi's script lines in conversations, which makes it hard for us to have a normal dialogue without him breaking out in some annoying voice line of his. Over time, his room has become covered in posters related to the character, and he has had his phone case, lock screen, and home screen as this character. I tried to be patient, but I really couldn't when he began mimicking Kokichi's more problematic traits, like being extremely manipulative and disrespectful. When I confronted him about this and expressed that it was negatively affecting his behavior in our family dynamic, I ended up taking out all of my stress that I had bottled up over time and yelled. I told him that he needs to stop idolizing a character who promotes such negative traits and start focusing more on his real life and relationships, instead of being stuck in this delusional phase of his. He was really hurt by my reaction and ended up shutting down and going back to his room. Now it's been 2 days since that conversation, and it feels like I attacked something he genuinely loves and finds comforting. I told some of my loved ones about this. My sister and husband think I overreacted and should have approached the situation more calmly. My dad and my sister's husband believe I was right to address the issue before it escalated further. Others think I should have stayed silent and just waited for his phase to end eventually. I genuinely don't know how to process this situation, and my son hasn't really talked as much as he usually does since then. Am I the wrong here? How should I process this? You are the jerk here, OP, for a couple of reasons. First, Danganronpa V3 is an M-rated game for a reason, and isn't appropriate for a 13-year-old due to its dark themes. Second, instead of yelling, there should have been conversations along the way about your concerns. Lastly, if he enjoys such games, it would help to be more involved with his interests to understand them better. Am I the jerk for how I reacted to a prophecy? I swear I'm not making this up and I don't know how to feel. I am an 18-year-old female, and in the weeks leading up to me moving away for college, my mother has been taking my brother and me to church every weekend. I play along, but the truth is that I have been a non-believer for a few years now. I get mini panic attacks every service from the imposter syndrome. This story happened yesterday, and it's the last sermon I attended before I move in this Friday. The service was over, and we were getting ready to leave when this group of people stopped us, a guy with glasses, a girl his age, and an older woman. He excused himself before mentioning that he had had visions of me. I was in a Cinderella gown, condemning my friends for their sins, and that I would play a very large part in God's plan. Very eerie chosen one statements. I knew immediately that he was lying because I am not Christian and haven't been for a long time. However, when I looked over at my family for assurance, my brother was fixated on him and my mother was close to tears. I got a very uneasy feeling in my stomach. He told my mother that she was a good mom even though she doesn't feel like it. This hit her hard because my mother has lots of insecurity she deals with and is constantly working overtime. Just a reminder, he doesn't know us, but he kept specifically coming back to me. You're unique, but that makes you special. You have a very important part to play. You are not alone. By this point, I was incredibly uncomfortable. I glanced around the church in desperation. Finally, the older woman took my hand, and they made a prayer. My eyes stayed open, continuing to frantically look for intervention. My mother confronted me later to ask what I thought of it. I told her the truth, how I felt uncomfortable with how much he focused on me when he was a complete stranger, and how him essentially sharing fantasies about me was weird. She got very defensive. She argued that he didn't know our family, but he clearly had a divine gift. She blamed me for having my walls up and being very cynical all the time. She told me she would just have to pray that I would accept it as God's word. I feel like I'm going insane. This is the same mother who sends me safety reels daily on Instagram, but now that it's someone's gift from God, I'm supposed to feel grateful and fulfilled. I feel betrayed that my own mother doesn't validate my feelings. I tried to tell her that it was easy to pick up on our personalities based on how she appears to be a single mother since our dad doesn't attend, and how I present as guarded based on how tense I am at church because of the negative experiences I've associated with it. She's convinced this was real. I'm not even sure how I'm supposed to react to this experience. All I know is that my gut was telling me that something wasn't right. Am I the asshole for how I reacted? I don't feel blessed. I feel singled out and preyed upon. This sounds like a classic case of someone using cold reading techniques without even realizing it. They may genuinely believe their own nonsense, but there's no real insight there. Take their prophecies with a large grain of salt and a margarita. Remember, you shouldn't feel there's any validity in what they're saying. Am I the jerk for calling my sister-in-law crazy for stealing my baby names? So I really would like some advice just to know if I am really overreacting, or if this whole situation is as aggravating as I find it to be. My husband, Oliver, and I got married when we were 26 and 24, and we have 4 children together. My husband has a little brother, Mason, who married Jane. They have 3 children together and are expecting a baby. Jane and I get along pretty well. She and her kids come over to my house a lot while our husbands are at work, so we spend a lot of time together. However, there has been one thing that has always bothered me about Jane. A couple of years ago, when Jane's son was being born, she told me that she wanted to name her son Oliver after my husband. Here's the problem. My son, who was 2 years old at the time, was already named Oliver after my husband. I expressed this to her, and she then acted like she understood, but when her son was born, she named him Oliver. Mason told me and my husband that they would only call their son by his middle name or by the initials of his first and middle name. However, for the past 10 years, Jane and her kids have only called their son Oliver. Jane also tries to get her son and my husband to be really close, going as far as to bring him over to the house by himself a lot, even when she knows my husband and son are trying to spend quality time together. This has always rubbed me and my husband the wrong way, but for the sake of his family, we chose not to make it a big deal. A couple of days ago, Jane and I were talking about baby names for her and Mason's new baby. For more context, my daughter Annabelle actually doesn't get called Annabelle and instead goes by her middle name Lily. Everyone has been calling her Lily since childhood. When Jane and I were talking about girl baby names, she said she was already set on a name for a girl and said Lily. I asked her the reason why, and she stated it's the only name that she liked for a girl and that she genuinely didn't like any other name. I said to her that she knows my daughter goes by Lily and that is basically her name. She instantly got very defensive and tried to say that Lily wasn't my daughter's actual name, so it didn't matter and that I was being ridiculous. I then said, "You're the ridiculous one and crazy at that." This got Jane really mad, and she immediately said she couldn't believe I called her crazy. She then rounded up her kids and left. Honestly, I feel like if Jane hadn't already done this before, I wouldn't have minded her wanting to name her daughter Lily as much. But twice, it just feels intentional at this point. However, I have been thinking about how I might be over-dramatizing this whole situation. I am hesitant because I don't want to ruin my husband and children's familial relationships with their cousins and brother with this issue. But am I the asshole? You are not at fault here. This whole situation is really weird, especially copying the names of actual family members. What does her husband think about this? Maybe try having a family meeting with all 4 of you to gain some insight into her actions. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.